Welcome to Crime Cafe. Today's case is going to be taking us to England, and we're going to be covering Kayleigh Haywood's case. I like to give my disclaimer at the beginning of the video that this content isn't for everyone. It's going to be covering some triggering things, so if it's not for you, it's okay to click out. I always try to stay respectful for the victims and their families. With all that being said, grab your cup of coffee, relax, and let's dive in. Kayleigh Haywood was 15 years old and she was born in August of 2000. She lived in Meesham, Leicestershire. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. She was one in 7 children to her mom and dad, Stephanie and Martin. They were a very close-knit family. She was extra close with her mom and her youngest sister. She was described as extremely bubbly, really friendly, and extremely social. She didn't have a lot of friends, but she had that tight-knit group of friends who did everything together. Now, we all know social media is a huge part of our lives, and an even bigger part in the younger generation's lives. Social media can be everything to some kids, and they're on it all the time. And they don't always see or check out who they're friending. They just accept friend requests because, you know, they have more followers or more friends, and it just makes them feel good. On October 31st of 2015, Kaylee received a friend request from a man called Luke Harlow. Now, she can tell by his profile picture that he was a little bit older than her, but his profile didn't say his age. She accepted his friend request, and it was pretty much immediately after that he sent her a private message that just said, "Hi, how are you?" And she responded with, "Hi, who are you?" And he introduced himself, and he pointed out that they had a lot of friends in common and they knew the same people, they just didn't know each other, and you know, so she can feel comfortable with him because he knew some of her friends. He let her know that he came across her profile picture and he just thought that she was beautiful, and he wanted to introduce himself to her, and the compliments continued from there. He kept letting her know that she was gorgeous, that she was beautiful, that she was a princess. You know, he was saying all the complimentary things that make people feel good, especially when you're a young teenaged girl who, you know, is just trying to find herself, grow into her own skin and accept herself for who she is, and getting those compliments can make you feel so much more important, if you know what I mean. She would continue to fight back with him on the compliments. She would tell him, you know, "No, I'm none of those things. I'm not pretty, I'm not beautiful," and he would reassure her that she certainly was, and that he was extremely attracted to her, and they got close really, really quickly. She didn't tell anyone that she met this man. She would just secretly talk back and forth to him. He kind of became her person for anything, because he made her feel good. Luke did ask her age, and she told him that she was 19 years old. She obviously knew that he was a little bit older from his profile picture and his Facebook page. He posted about things that were a little above her age, so she knew that she had to be above 18. So she lied and she told him that she was 19 when really she was 15 years old, and he told her that he was 26 when he was really 27. I guess that felt like a big difference for him, the 26 and 27. So they continued to talk in friendly and explicit ways, with Luke thinking that she was 19 years old. He would make sexually suggestive texts to her and all those things. And then the one day she posted a picture with her friends and they were in their school uniform. So Luke saw this and he asked her about it, and she straight up just told him, I lied about my age, I'm not 19, I'm 15 years old. And he just let her know that it's okay. He wasn't mad at her for that, and that they could just keep it a secret if they were going to keep talking, because he can get in big trouble. And he kind of laid it on her in the best way that he possibly could to benefit himself. He knew that, you know, she liked him, and if she wanted to keep getting the compliments and having him there as her person, she needed to keep quiet about it. Otherwise, he could go to jail, and he let her know that. So right off from the beginning, Luke was pushing to meet in person. He would say little things wanting to get together, but Kaylee, I think, knowing that she was lying about her age, she didn't want to meet in person because it was obvious that she was much younger than 19 years old. So when he found out the truth and he was accepting of the truth, he wanted to meet in person, and she was hesitant at first, but was liking the idea. She wanted to see him in person, and he planned this first date that they would have. She would go to his house and they were going to watch movies, and he was going to get snacks, and it was just going to be a fun movie night for the two of them. And at 15 years old, that's exciting. It's an exciting thing. And she was probably feeling extremely bubbly and excited about that. And we know that it's not exciting. It's what he was doing is awful, and we know what his intentions were. As she got excited for this date night that they were planning, he decided to add a little bit more and more to their plans. He wanted to add a little bit of alcohol to their plans. She was okay with it. She was willing to try it and trusted him to get the alcohol and, you know, have fun with him. Luke and Kaylee planned this first date to happen on November 13th of 2015. It was a Friday night, and he let her know that she needed to lie and say that she was going to go stay at a friend's house, because obviously her parents weren't going to let her stay at a stranger's house, especially a stranger that's much older than her. So she had to think of a plan on what she was going to tell her parents. And she told her parents that she was going to go stay at a friend's house. Now, this meetup was like exactly 2 weeks after their first message to each other. Friday came and her parents dropped her off at a parking lot of a local center that she said her friend was at, and she had practice. So they dropped her off in the parking lot and they drove away. And on CCTV footage, you can see that she got dropped off and she waited for her parents to leave the parking lot, and then she started walking away from the center. So Friday night, Kaylee went to Luke's house. She was still posting on social media. She was still very active on social media, and everything seemed fine. She was posting pictures and she seemed like she was having fun. Everything was good. On Saturday, so the next morning, it was around noon when Kaylee's mom received a message from her, and she was asking if she can stay at this friend's house for another night because she was having so much fun. And her mom didn't see why not, so she of course said, sure, you can. On Sunday morning of that weekend, a man was walking dogs. That's what he did for a living. He was a dog walker. So he was walking down the street and he came across a phone that was on the sidewalk, and he picked it up and just went to recent phone calls and dialed the last number that was called. It turned out to be Kaylee's friend Her friend didn't recognize the location that the man told her that he found the phone. So as soon as she got off the phone with him, she called Kaylee's mom and told her that Kaylee's phone was found in this location. And her mom was first confused and then terrified, because the friend that called her to let her know this was the friend that Kaylee was supposed to be with that weekend, and she immediately calls the police. So Kaylee's phone is picked up from this location that the man found the phone on the ground, and the police meet at Kaylee's parents' house, and they ask about her social medias and if she's active on them and if she has any electronics. So they obviously have her phone, and they took her laptop computer, and they were just running through all of her social medias and emails and messages and things like that to see if they could figure anything out as to where she would be going on Friday and why she would lie about it. So as soon as they got to private messages, they saw Luke Harlow, and they can tell that he was an older man by his profile picture, but didn't know how much older he was. They could see that Luke and Kaylee became really close, and that was where she planned to go. So within an hour of finding Kaylee's phone, the police were at Luke Harlow's home. Luke answered the door. He let them in without an issue, and he just straight up said, yeah, she was here. She was here on Friday night, and she was here most of the day on Saturday, and like late Saturday night, she left, and he thought that she was going to be coming back, but she didn't show up. So he went to bed, and he thought that she'd be back Sunday morning to get some of the things that she left at his house, but she didn't. So he handed the things that she left there to the police, and he was really cooperative with them. Luke was really concerned about where Kaylee's phone was found, and her phone was found on the block that his house was located. But he was concerned about if they searched her phone. He was acting like he was concerned and, wanting to know if there was anything on her phone that would suggest where she went. The police noted that he was extremely interested in her phone, and they wanted to get a formal statement from him, so they decided to take him down to the police station so they can get one written up. This is when Luke tells the police that Kaylee stayed over Friday night and all day Saturday, and then that Saturday night it wasn't just him and Kaylee. It was him, Kaylee, and his neighbor Steven. They were all drinking, and the two of them decided that they wanted to go for a walk. So they did that. He didn't feel like going. He stayed back, and it got later and later, and they didn't come back. And he waited up for them until he just couldn't anymore, and he decided to go to sleep. He left the door unlocked for them and figured they would just come in. But when he woke up Sunday morning, they never came back. So he didn't know where they went or where they were even at that moment. So the police went straight away to Luke's neighbor Steven's house, Steven Beedman. He wasn't home. He wasn't at his work. He was eventually found at a friend's house, and he wasn't with Kaylee. At this point, the police arrest both Luke and Steven on suspicion of kidnapping. So now they have both Luke and Steven back at the police station, and the police finally ask Luke, how did you and Kaylee become connected to begin with? You're obviously older than her, and you don't really have much in common, so how did you get to know each other? Luke was really hesitant on answering that question, of course, and he stumbled on his words a little bit, and he just said that he couldn't really remember who friended who, but it was from Facebook. Someone became friends with someone, and they would just randomly say hi to each other once in a while, and that's pretty much the extent of their conversation. Obviously, the police have Kaylee's phone, and they've read through all of their messages, and let me tell you, there was 2,643 messages between the two of them within a 2 weeks time period. So it was a lot more than just saying hi to each other once in a while. Luke continued to stick by his story. He said that her and Steven left his house on Saturday night and they didn't come back. He has no idea where they were, no idea where they are now. Luke's body language was very animated and hand gestures like crazy, which, I mean, I do a lot of hand gestures when I talk. I do have some Italian in me, so I do a lot of hand motions. It gets on my own nerves, but yeah. So, but they did look at his body language and that he was really tense and obviously hiding something. Now they have Steven in a different room, and Luke doesn't even know that. And Steven's story is completely different than what Luke says. Steven says that on Saturday night, Luke came knocking on his door and he asked if he had any soda or anything that he can mix alcohol with to make some mixed drinks. And Steven asked why, and Luke says, because I've got a bird around. Now, bird is a British slang term, and it dates back to like the 70s or in the 80s, but it's a term that's used not when women are actually present, but it talks about a girl that you have, a young woman that you have, you're dating or you want, but it's not something that you would say in front of the woman. Steven said Luke let him know that he was there Friday night and they got drunk and they were wanting to get drunk again, so they need some soda or something to mix with their alcohol to make some mixed drink. So Steven went over to Luke's apartment with him, and he said that he drank for a while with them. He was there for probably about 4 hours, and Luke and Kaylee got extremely drunk, and Kaylee was so drunk that she could hardly sit up and barely talk, and he was getting annoyed with them, didn't really want to hang around anymore because he said they were drinking prior to him being there, so they were already getting drunk when he got there, and they were just too extremely drunk by the time he was there for a while, and they weren't even able to hold a conversation with them or really hang out with him, and he was bored, so he went home and he went to bed. So both these men are saying that the other one was with Kaylee last, and the police need to figure out which one is lying or if they're both lying. Search started for Kaylee, and the police pulled out all the stops. They had tons of people searching for her. They had police officers searching for her, helicopters, dogs. They had all the things. First piece of evidence that they found was near Luke's house was a bush, and they found a bra there. So they took the bra back to the police station, and they brought Kaylee's mom in to see if it was her bra or anything like that, and Kaylee's mom did confirm that that was Kaylee's bra. By this time, there was about 400 police officers and just friends and family and volunteers out searching for Kaylee, and back at the police station, they were sifting through all the messages between Kaylee and Luke, and they were seeing that how extremely sexual Luke's messages became towards Kaylee. Now, they started being that way when she lied and he thought that she was 19, but after she confessed and said that her age was actually 15, and he talked to her about keeping it a secret and they can still talk and be friends, then he continued to make sexual advances towards her and let her know the things that he wanted to do with her and to her, and it was very extreme. And when the police took Luke's phone, they went to the messages between him and Kaylee, and in his phone they only had about 500 messages back and forth, and it was obvious that Luke erased all of the messages that would incriminate him. And I don't know if I ever said Luke's actual age. Now, he told Kaylee that he was 26, he was 27, so he only lied by a year, but he was 27 years old and he knew that she was only 15. The police saw that Kaylee's phone went inactive at 9 p.m. on Saturday. Everything stopped at that time. She was posting and on her phone, active on her phone until 9 p.m. on Saturday. So obviously that's when they thought that something took place. Something happened around 9 p.m. Saturday. Police started talking with Steven, Luke's neighbor, Steven's friends and family, and they found out that he actually had a storage shed in an area that you could rent out storage sheds. The police went there. This was 3 o'clock in the morning. They called the owner of the storage shed business, and he came with the master key to open up Steven's storage shed. He spoke with staff there as well, and it was confirmed that Steven was there Sunday at around 2 p.m. So they really wanted to get into his storage shed. And once they did, they found that it was completely clean. He had a bunch of furniture in there, but nothing looked odd or messy or like anything weird. It just looked fine, like a normal storage shed. So when they saw Steven on the security footage, they saw him pull up with his truck and he just parked at his storage shed, but he didn't get out. He never left his car. So they're thinking that maybe he sat in there and he was trying to figure out what he was gonna do, and that maybe he knew that it wouldn't have been a good idea to put anything actually in his storage shed, that maybe whatever he was doing was around that area. So the police, of course, then searched that surrounding area. Right at the gates where you come in and out, there's a dumpster there for the people that rent out the storage sheds to freely use, and they searched in there. And when they did, they found women's clothes and a handbag. So they took it back to the station and brought Kaylee's mother in once again, and she did confirm that the clothes and the handbag both belonged to Kaylee. The police at this point didn't have high expectations on the outcome of this situation. They knew that they found all of Kaylee's clothes, her purse, her phone, and these boys weren't cooperating. They were, either one was lying or they were both lying. It didn't seem like it was gonna end well. The police started to question the boys' neighbors, the other neighbors that were surrounding them, and to see if they saw anything or heard anything that night. A couple of them did hear some banging and screaming around 3 a.m., but said it wasn't out of the ordinary. People were always coming in and out drunk in that area, so it wasn't odd to hear loud noises and fights and things like that. But the one neighbor said that he saw what he thought was a domestic dispute of some sort. He walked out of his apartment. He saw a man on top of a woman. She was on the floor and he was kind of on top of her, kind of yelling at her. He got up and started to walk away, and she just laid there. And then turned back around. He went and put his hand out to help her up. She got up and they ended up holding hands and walking off together. So the neighbor just thought that they were fighting, and they were drunk and fighting, and it wasn't really anything. The police took the information, went back to Steven and Luke and asked them if that could have been either one of them with Kaylee, and they both denied that. The police noticed one obvious thing about Steven: his appearance. He looked like he was in a fight. He had what looks like rug burns on his face. He had some cuts on his hands and his arms, and Steven just told them that he got hurt at work. He works outside a lot. He just had an issue at work and he got hurt, and that's where that happened. So they asked him where he worked, and the police went to his job to search that area. So they found a field where he worked, and they found a fire pit there that wasn't lit yet. It wasn't a burned fire pit. It was just things stacked on top of each other to be burned. So of course they sifted through that pile of stuff, and they found a black duffel bag filled with men's clothes, and they had blood all over them. So they sent all of that back to forensics, and it did come back to be Kayleigh's blood. At this point, both men are rearrested for Kayleigh's now murder. It was at this point that Stephen wanted to change his story. Said that he did go over to Luke's to drink with the two of them, and they both did decide to go for a walk, and Luke stayed back. Him and Kayleigh went for a walk. Said that they were so drunk, especially Kayleigh was so drunk that she was kind of getting on his nerves because she kept falling and was just not able to handle herself at all, and he was getting really angry with her. So the dispute that the neighbor saw most likely was them. The police let Stephen know that this doesn't look good for him at all. He was the last person with Kayleigh, and he's seen fighting with her. Couldn't tell them where she went after she was with him. They were really pressing him to confess, because they were letting him know that either you can confess and we can work something out, we can figure this out together, or you can keep telling the story that we know is a lie, and you can go to court and then you can be found guilty. So either way, you're going to be found guilty. How do you want to do it? So they finally convinced him, and he confessed to the rape and murder of Kayleigh Haywood. He said he left her body in a field, showed them on a map where he put her. It was in an area that was really overgrown, and this confession came late at night, so it was really dark, and there wasn't anyone to call to come, like volunteers or extra police officers to come and have a search party for the area. So it was actually the only officers that were just getting off duty. It was like 4 or 5 officers that went when they got off their shift. They went on their own time to search for Kayleigh in that area. They just really wanted to bring her home. After quite a few hours of searching in this overgrown field, they found Kayleigh Haywood. She was naked except for one sock, and she was laid in a very unnatural position that just seemed like she was just kind of thrown there. It was really obvious that she went through an extremely brutal death. She had been bludgeoned to death, and she had cuts and bruises all over her body, especially on her hands and her arms, which are defensive wounds. So she was really fighting and trying to outfight him, and it's obvious by his appearance. The police made this their own theory that Kayleigh stayed at Luke's house on Friday. She had a good time. Everything was fine. And on Saturday, she did text her mom, that was her, asking to stay another night at her friend's house. That the 3 of them got really drunk, and that the boys made sexual advances on her and may have even sexually assaulted her. And they think that when the neighbor saw her and Stephen on outside, he said that the woman looked like the couple was coming back from a night out or something like that, because she had bare legs. But the police think that maybe she just had a shirt on, and that was it, because of an assault that might have happened in the house prior to that dispute. I think that Stephen just ran after her and caught up to her, and then took her to where he raped her and then where he murdered her. Stephen pointed out a parking lot and said that he raped Kayleigh in the parking lot, and then we're walking, and he was having her think that they were walking back to Luke's, and he just took her to a wooded area, and that's where he killed her. Police do believe that Luke had no idea that Kaylee was going to be murdered and that he didn't have anything to do with her murder. I do think that he knew a lot more than what he told them. So 4 days after Kaylee went missing, 24-year-old Stephen Beedman was charged with her rape and murder, and Luke Harlow was charged with grooming and 2 counts of sexual activity with a child. The police didn't feel like Luke got enough because they read the messages between him and Kaylee, the 2,000 messages between the two of them, and he was extremely good at grooming. And they just had a feeling that this was not his first. They collected his computer and all of his electronics, and they searched to see if there were other victims. They found thousands of indecent images of children, a search history of violent and graphic pornography. So June of 2016, so a year later, the men have their trial. At this point, Stephen became extremely remorseful. He was so sorry for what he did. During the trial times, he tried to hide in his cell. He didn't want to go to trial. He didn't want to face the things that he did. And Luke kind of played the I'm a victim too card, that Stephen took his girlfriend away from him. Yes, she was younger, and yes, he's wrong for that, but Stephen used him to get to his girlfriend and murder her, and he was trying to kind of play the victim card as well. Luke was found guilty of his charges, and he was sentenced to 12 years, and Stephen was found guilty to his charges. He was sentenced to life in prison. Police and Kaylee's parents worked on a video they put together that is called Kaylee's Love Story, and it's on YouTube, and it's for young people and what can happen if someone is grooming you, so you can be aware of what that looks like. So it's an educational video on Kaylee's last 13 days of her life, and it's so sad. But I'm going to leave the link to Kaylee's love story in the description box below. And I do want to say that on April 8th, 2021, Stephen Beedman died in the prison hospital. He was found in his cell and taken to the hospital, and he was pronounced dead. And the cause of death came back being oxygen deprivation to the brain and cardiac arrest, and this was pending lab tests. I didn't find anything completely confirmed with that, but that's what they had the cause of death prior to the lab tests. I definitely want to say again that the police and Kaylee's parents made the video Kaylee's Love Story, and I think it is really important for young kids to see something like this, because it isn't something that you just grow up knowing. It's hard to see the signs of someone grooming you or manipulating you at such a young, vulnerable age. So I think it is important to see what to look for and what can happen. It's not a bad thing to be aware of things like that. I just think it's really important to be aware of that at a young age. I know I always was. My dad was he's a retired lieutenant colonel, and he just raised me in kind of being extremely vigilant all the time. So I just think it's important. I want to know how this case makes you feel. Do you think that Luke Harlow, his 12 years is enough? Do you think he knew more than what he was saying? Do you think he had a hand in the killing, or that he really was innocent in that? Definitely let me know your thoughts on him. I think Stephen ended up getting what he deserved. He's no longer around, and I think that's for the best, my personal opinion. Yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. And like always, if you have any suggestions on the videos I should cover, leave them in the comments, or you can email them to me. Definitely subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get notified every single time I upload a video. And thank you so much for giving me your time. Bye.